peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
I'm joining the World Health Organization's Safe Hands Challenge. Hand washing is one of the most effective ways of preventing the spread of coronavirus. Wash your hands with soap and water for at least 40 to 60 seconds.
To my fellow African diaspora, a very good day to all of you. My name is Ambassador Arikana Chihombori Kwao. Over the past couple of days, I've received many messages, emails, phone calls, and video clippings of the abuse that is being meted to our fellow African diaspora living in China. I've watched in horror Africans roaming the streets of China with their possessions after being evicted out of their homes simply because they're Africans. I've watched in horror Africans roaming the streets with their suitcases and at times with nothing at all, roaming the streets after being thrown out of their hotel rooms simply because they're Africans. I have watched in horror women carrying babies roaming the streets of China with nowhere to go after being thrown out of their homes simply because they are Africans. I've heard many stories of Africans who are married to Chinese being separated from their husbands or wives simply because they were Africans. I've heard stories about Africans being forced to take COVID-19 tests simply because they're Africans. In many cases, these individuals did not meet criteria for testing, or rather had been quarantined for the specified time period as mandated by the anti-pandemic laws of China. Not once have I heard any complaints of any African disobeying the anti-pandemic laws of China. Why is it then that Africans are being singled out and mistreated? This situation is not acceptable. It is wrong, and it will not be tolerated. To President Xi, I say, while you have enjoyed good relationships with all the African leaders, it is precisely because of that that you should do the right thing. You are sitting in the big boy's chair, and we are asking you to make the big boy decisions. We are counting on you to make sure that the Africans that are roaming the streets and have been evicted from their homes be allowed to go back home. We're also asking you to make sure the Africans who are roaming the streets because they have been thrown out of their hotel rooms be allowed to go back to their hotel rooms. As we speak, President Xi, may I remind you that we have over 10 million Chinese residing in Africa where we have welcomed them with open arms. We have allowed the Chinese to establish themselves to marry Africans and live happily ever after in our Africa. Why can't Africans be awarded the same welcome that we have given to millions of your citizens? What is being done to Africans in China is deplorable, and the world cannot stand by and allow it to continue. While we understand that the majority of the Chinese are good people, they're good citizens in China as well as in Africa. However, sadly, among them, there are a few bad apples. A few bad apples that have chosen to give China a bad name. A few bad apples that are making China look bad in the eyes of the Africans. This is a situation that cannot be allowed to continue. President Xi, you are a good man. And we would like the relationship between China and the African governments to continue unabated. But the behavior that's coming from a few of your citizens will not be tolerated. And we're counting on you to do what is right, to do what is just, and to do what is fair. The Africans are no longer going to tolerate this abuse. From the Chinese or anybody else for that matter. The African youth are enraged. We're asking, when is enough going to be enough? President Xi, the power is in your hands. We value, as Africans, our relationship with China. Please do not allow a few bad apples within your citizens to ruin what is otherwise a wonderful relationship between China and the African countries. As a united citizens, as a united African citizens in the diaspora, we are asking you, President Xi, to do what is right, to do what is just, and to do what is fair. The children of Africa are saying, enough is enough. The abuse of Africans at home and abroad, be it in China or on the continent, has got to stop. You may not be aware of some of these abuses, but as a united African citizenry in the diaspora, we hope you will receive our message in the spirit with which it is being delivered to you. You are a good man, President Xi. We trust you will do the right thing. I thank you.
Of us, in order to be able to serve our population, the maximum is double that amount. We need to have at least 960,000 units per year. There is need to surpass the minimum and approach the maximum requirement. Our target should be at least, if we don't get the 960, we should at least get to the 720,000 units. So a critical review of blood situation in Kenya shows that there is a huge gap that we have. And to ensure that we can respond to our patients, we need to address this issue with the utmost seriousness that we can garner. The 2010 Constitution changed the narrative for most of our blood institutions, including this sector and other sectors that we manage within the ministry. Article 10, on national values, places new demands on good governance, integrity, transparency, accountability, and human dignity as a whole. And I think that when people are dying away because we don't have enough blood for them, that to me is abuse of Article 10. And I'm glad to note that the Kenya National Blood Transfusion Service Bill has undergone the first reading and has since been committed to the Departmental Committee on Health for consideration. We appreciate the role that Parliament is playing in this regard. I therefore want to take this opportunity to ask members of the public to submit their views to the committee to enable us to come up with a solid law that is going to exist in perpetuity. I also want to pick out the importance of leveraging modern ICT. We must use ICT to maximize our efficiency within the activities that we want to undertake. If we do so, and if we predicate what we are going to do on good management, good governance, provision of ICT, then we should be able to cast the net wider on donors to net the 70% of our target population at the ages of between 18 and 65 in a very short time. We should create a clean register of donors with which to enable us to know who our regular supporters are. We should incentivize our blood donors through modern forms of recognition and appreciation, including, and I have proposed this before, branding, levelizing so that people know what level of blood donor they belong to. We should be able, again, leveraging on ICT, to track blood from point of donation to the point of utilization. We should be able to monitor our blood supply levels, complete with the requisite alerts to deficiency and all oversupply. We should be able to manage supplies in relation to needs, including the need to distribute blood between hospitals and counties. The responsibility, therefore, Mr. Chairman, is on you now to define the systems that will catapult blood transfusion services in Kenya to be responsive to modern needs and demands. I therefore take this opportunity to congratulate you, congratulate the team, congratulate those of you who have been given this opportunity, and wish you the best of luck in this undertaking. You have our support. I believe you have the support of all Kenyans, and particularly you have the full support of His Excellency the President, and he was quite happy and glad to hear about this team, and hopefully we will be able to address our concerns in the fastest possible time. Let me just add the following, that moving forward as a ministry and in terms of management of blood, we do not want to see duplication of activities. We are going to centralize all blood activities into one, and there will be no other activities taking place outside the ambit of this institutional framework. And anything that is currently going on will be brought to this framework so that we know the right hand must know what the left hand is doing. Anything involving the storage, anything involving the search for, anything involving the management of, must now be brought squarely into the ambit of the institutional framework that we have built. Before I ask the peers to make remarks and give a vote of thanks, I also want to, for purposes of this meeting, to say that these reforms that we are making, and particularly the issue of blood, as I said earlier, is part of the wider agenda. And as we begin, as we are so involved in the issue of the management of COVID-19, I think it is important for us to remember that the rest of the disease system in the country continues. You know, there is a tendency to think that we are now, this ministry is a ministry of COVID-19. It is not the ministry of COVID. You know, even I hear children are calling me Waziri wa Corona. Now, let me make it clear that the ministry's normal activities remain and must continue. And this is the reason why we decided that we must continue with this effort.
Good afternoon, viewers, or good morning, viewers, wherever you are in Africa, and wherever you are in the afternoon in South in Australia and other places in the world where it is afternoon. Other places in the world, good morning. Those United States still sleeping. Good night. Some places in South America, good night. In Mogadishu, Somalia, good morning. Good morning, viewers. This is MATSANGA Africa Perspective, a show that talks about Africa, a show that engages in African issues, discusses issues. We bring out the insight of Africa. What can we do for Africa that we have not done for many times? Many things are happening on the continent. What can we do to help the situation in Africa to change? So this show is basically a show that looks at Africa and African issues. What can we do to help many of the countries in Africa during this COVID-19? As you know, we shall now go by the rule so that people don't think we are biased. We are going to be very factual. The topic today is, what precautions have we taken to protect our troops, our soldiers, the men in the boots, the boots in Somalia, those who are in Mogadishu and those who are in Kismayo and the rest of Somalia. What steps have we taken during these times of COVID-19? With me in the studio to analyze this after my intro will be none other than Miriam Ogutu, my good friend, comrade at arms and in arms, both of them at arms and in arms. Yes, that means we are together. Whichever way you want to run, you come back to the same base. We are together. Mao Zedong said, in arms and at arms. In arms, comrade in arms, and a comrade at arms. So you can go at a distance, but you are in the distance. So thank you very much, Miriam. This is Punchline MATSANGA Africa Perspective. The war in Somalia started in 1991 when President Siad Barre was overthrown. His throne was taken away. Warlords turned into killing armies, killing machines killed many Somalis. Somalia became a state, a pariah state, broke to pieces, and there was no state called Somalia on the map of Africa. It remained in the drawings on the map and on the drawings on the map and on the other utterances. But when it came to the reality, Somalia on the ground was no more. Its people went away in foreign countries. The people got asylum, became refugees worldwide, scattered in many countries in Europe and in America. Huge number of them went to Canada, huge numbers went to Britain, and other numbers went to America. The struggle for Mogadishu and the prominence in Somalia went on for some time until changes in government. Islamic courts came and swept out. Islamic courts came and swept out the people who were in power and brought in some semblance for a short time, which again, the Islamic courts themselves were swept out. And since then, there has been in and out governments changing, some peacefully, but the general situation of Somalia itself remains. 3/4 of Somalia is under very serious difficulties of regime change, of Islamic State and other Al-Qaeda affiliates. Viewers, the situation became unmanageable. That in the years that followed, there was quite a lot of difficulties for our people in Somalia. The troops that were sent to be on the ground in Somalia became the focus of our international politics. Somalia has never been governed peacefully. The government only governs parts of Mogadishu, and the rest of Mogadishu is divided between them and the terrorists. Today, the AMISOM, which is the big force, the biggest force that ever African Union has ever assembled in its history to help restore peace and pacify Somalia, struggles to bring back Somalia to its knee, from knees to legs and then upright, which is called the pacification of Somalia. How long will our troops stay in Somalia remains the answers for the leaders who decided, and the governments that decided that the troops can therefore go and pacify Somalia. That is the topic of the day. The topic of the day is how prepared, what precautions today we have taken against two enemies. One, we have seen the enemy of COVID-19, and we have seen the perennial enemy who has been there, that is Al-Qaeda affiliated, Al-Shabaab, and other organizations that fight to take over Somalia, turn it into an Islamic state. Therefore, it is upon us, the journalists, to look at the interests. All along in Kenya and Uganda, we have been talking about the interests of our people. But there is no television station that has gone to look for the interests of the troops that are on the ground. We want to look at the interests of the groups, the UPDF, the KDF, the Ethiopian troops, the Djibouti, the Burundian contingent that are on the ground in Somalia. What protective measures, precautions have the governments at home and in Somalia tried to protect the troops that are on the ground in that country? And that is the topic of today. I've done a breakdown. We shall look at the troops, the background history on how the 22,000 troops and the police from 6 African countries have come to be protected, and how are they being protected. But first of all, we would like to get back to the studio to hear only to hear the portion of what it is concerning COVID results, the numbers in Somalia, how many are so far infected, what is the curve. Given the curve that is running very riskily and alarmingly, we are bound to say there must be extraordinary measures that they come to where AMISOM troops and the KDF troops are, must be well protected, because the protection must come from the commanders, from the instructions given by their governments. So what precautions have been taken to protect our troops in Somalia? Over to you, Miriam. Let's see the first part of an introduction from your side in the studio. Thank you.
Yes, and I'm just trying to get the numbers here in Somalia right now. The numbers so that we can look at the statistics as they stand right now. Of course, Somalia right now is leading in this part of Africa in terms of the infections there, so that raises a cause for concern, because of the other factors that when you consider Somalia is already fighting and the challenges that are already there in Somalia, and then you add into the COVID-19 there, the numbers that keep rising in Somalia, and you realize, the confirmed cases so far in Somalia is 480, and the death toll there is 26, and 10 people have recovered. And so that's why we have to talk about this, because right now as we speak, AMISOM has more than 22,000 soldiers and police from 6 African countries, and deployed in Somalia to protect the government there and to fight the Al-Shabaab militants. Now, Of course, of great concern is the AMISOM soldiers' welfare, who might be at a greater risk of contracting this virus. They're already battling other existing challenges in Somalia, but now COVID-19 seems to be posing even a greater challenge there in Somalia.
Thank you very much. A greater challenge in Somalia, indeed. And with a number of COVID-19 infections rising on a daily basis in Somalia, focus has now shifted from the already vulnerable horn of East of African country, and it is on how we can protect our soldiers. Of great concern is the AMISOM soldiers and the KDF soldiers that are based in Kismayo and Mogadishu. Owing to the already challenging situation and the battle with everyday battles of Al-Shabaab and other encumbrances that come against the soldiers, COVID-19 poses even a greater challenge to the guys in the boats. The background: AMISOM has more than 22 soldiers and police from 6 African countries deployed in Somalia to protect the government there and to fight to stabilize that country by pacifying it and well laid out terms of reference. The African Union, which is the African Union mission in Somalia called AMISOM, is an active regional peacekeeping force operated by the African Union with the approval of United Nations Security Council. It was created, therefore, in January 2007 with an initial 6-month mandate, but its mandate has been extended and goes on extending on a daily basis. Therefore, if you look at the graphs, the map of the Somalia, as you see on the screen, the COVID has started at a flat rate. It went up, it shot up, it came down. Now it has shot up. So this curve, therefore, presents and poses a great risk to our soldiers. AMISOM is headed by the great commander of the forces, Lieutenant General Jimmy Owesingire. The competent is also competent Ugandan UPDF commander and a friend of some of us, we know him, and he heads that AMISOM group. And down south, we have the Kenya Defense Forces that have taken over Kismayo and control the port of Kismayo, which is under the KDF sector of the commanding forces or the peacekeeping forces in Somalia. Currently, the military component is comprised of the troops drawn from Uganda, Burundi, Djibouti, Kenya, Ethiopia, who are deployed in 6 sectors, covering South and Central Somalia. Ugandan troops are deployed in Sector 1, which compromises of Benadir and the Lower Shabelle areas of Somalia. The Kenyan troops and the Kenyan forces are responsible for Sector 2, comprising of the Middle Juba, Sector 3, comprising of Bay, Bakor, as well as Gedo Subsector 3, which comes under the Ethiopian command. As you are aware, Djibouti soldiers are in charge of Sector 3, which covers Hiran and Galugadu, while Burundian forces are in charge of Sector 5, which covers the Middle Shabelle region. The current situation, therefore, the mandate expires on 31st May 2020, which is next month. We don't know whether it will be extended, which wants to do piece by piece reduction of troops levels to a maximum of 19,626 troops, which was by February 2020. The number of AMISOM troops in Somalia On 17th of September 2010, an AU envoy said in Nairobi, AMISOM's size was 6,000 to 7,200 troops. In December 2010, the UN backed AMISOM in increasing the number of troops to 12,000. The United Nations Security Council Resolution 1964 of 22nd December therefore increased the number in 2010. And at the same time, reports indicated that Uganda had promised an extra 18,000 personnel, with Burundi giving 850 more troops. In March 2011, Burundi sent an extra 1,000 soldiers to AMISOM, bringing the total number of Burundian troops in that country deployable 4,500 and 400, sorry. In February 2012, the United Nations Security Council boosted the number of troops deployed from 12,000 to 17,000 troops. Kenya on November, in November 2012, agreed to send troops across to Somalia. As you are aware, the Kenyans were on the frontline states. All frontline states by the United Nations Security Council resolution were not supposed to send any troops into Somalia. But later on, this resolution in March announced that they would be sending 5,000 Kenyan troops to join the coalition of AMISOM in Somalia. The peace missions have been forced to take unprecedented steps to cope with COVID-19, which is our main subject. How are we coping with COVID-19? What precautions have we taken to keep the soldiers on the ground healthy at the same time when they are fighting the insurgency that is in Somalia? It is very important, therefore, for the people listening to this program this morning to understand that the soldiers also need a heart to be talked to. We are saying this because our talking to the soldiers right now, those few who are listening while they are on duty, is to make sure that they are liked. They are liked. We are sending a message that you are not on your own, that you are not left there to the vagaries of nature, that you are left there for on your own. We want to assure you that some of us talking to you have been in the army before, have been paramilitary people, have been trained people. We value you. We value your work. We validate what you do for Africa. Personally, I feel so touched when the soldiers take up a stand to die to pacify once a Pan-African state, a state that Siad Barre created, that gave Africa the light, that helped to liberate Tanzania, that helped to liberate South Africa from the hands of apartheid regime. We value you because we want Somalia to return to the normalcy of the world order. We value you because you sacrifice your home, your family, your every energy, every iota of the blood that flows to bring out the good, to pacify once a standing big country in Africa. That is the value why we talk to you. Why people have to talk to you at this hour is we feel more can be done. If there are loopholes, more can be done. We can change the methods. We can speak to the leaders. We are speaking to very many of them who are hooked into this program at the moment, for them to understand any logistical difficulties during the COVID-19, which is now sweeping the entire globe, where many of the soldiers are at risk. Some are at sea, some are in air, some are patrolling, keeping garrisons, keeping border posts, not to allow bad things to happen to states. So we are speaking to you from the point of view of one, a humanitarian point of view, two, a caring point of view. Our caring and our caring hearts, this station dedicates every effort to find out your difficulties, the difficulties that you endure on a daily basis, the difficulties that you have received on a daily basis. What steps have you done in your barracks, in your training, in your camps, in your places where you are to safeguard that COVID-19 does not come to disrupt your operations in Somalia? In the AU mission in Somalia, therefore, all movement of personnel have been limited in that the essential ones, the rotation, the deployment have been suspended, and the civilian staff outside Somalia are working from home, and the non-critical staff have been moved out. That is one aspect. And the other critical one is to guard the place. In AMISOM headquarters, therefore, what precautions have you taken? The dining facilities. Are these dining facilities being followed? Is the distancing being followed? How are you distancing yourselves? What precautions have you taken from hand washing? You as soldiers definitely wash hands. There is no soldier who eats food without washing hands because it's discipline. We shower in the mornings. We shower in the evenings. Those who are on duty try to take time and be out smart to make sure that Africa is free from this scourge of terrorism. Miriam, I want to assure the public, the people of Kenya, and the people of Uganda, that the soldiers need to be talked to. They are there for a main cause. They are there for the cause to liberate, to pacify, to bring back hope to the people of Somalia. They are not the enemies. They have not gone to occupy. They have gone there on the request because international engagement is very necessary. Nevertheless, missions have to make difficult choices to balance their duty of care to the staff and their obligations to implement their mandate. That is very, very key important when we come to discussion. How do they do that? The commanders have to tell them on each and every occasion that they must balance the duty. How do you balance your health with the duty of which you are involved of one, the visible enemy and the invisible enemy? There are two key issues that the soldiers in Mogadishu, Somalia face. Two very clear ones. The visible enemy, who are the terrorists, and the invisible enemy, who is COVID-19. Therefore, viewers, wherever you are in the continent and those watching, that is why we chose to talk. Talking and alerting our people, our governments, the government of Uganda, Burundi, Kenya, Ethiopia, that these soldiers are human. This COVID has not come to choose between the soldier and anybody else. It kills everybody. Therefore, alerting them is not exposing them. We are alerting the situation. We are just trying to say, this is how you can manage. If the loopholes have been sealed, that is fair and good. We have no problem about that. We are only saying we are with you on this journey as you protect, you defend, you engage, and give the people of Africa the price they want. There is only one price that the African continent wants. The price is to liberate, to pacify, to re-engage, re-establish a state of Somalia without Islamic influences or Islamic fighters taking charge in the Horn of Africa. That is the bottom line. You have not gone there to nationalize property. You have not gone there to take over that country. You are only safeguarding the integrity of the people of Somalia, to return normalcy in Somalia, to return all the goods that every nation yearns for, to have a nation that prospers, to have a nation that engages, to have a nation that contributes to the Pan-African vision. The vision of Pan-Africanism that we have must begin and return Somalia to where Siad Barre had put it. Those are my remarks, and I beg to move that Madam in the studio can now interrogate me on the issues that he wants or what he feels I have left out on the question of Somalia. Thank you. Over to you, Miriam, in the studio.
All right, I think you've mentioned quite almost everything there. I don't know if I have a question there for you, but also for our viewers who are watching right now, the reason why we have to keep talking about Somalia and why it is important particularly to ensure that the troops that are in Somalia right now helping to pacify that Horn of Africa country are safe is because it's not just a very small number there. We have over 22,000 troops there that have been drawn from Uganda, Burundi, Kenya, there, Djibouti, Ethiopia, and they cover about 6 sectors there, as Dr. earlier had mentioned. Of course, Ugandan troops are covering the first sector, then Kenya the second, and like that. They've been given sections of Somalia to try to work together in tandem with the government of Somalia to ensure that they defeat Al-Shabaab and also they restore Somalia back to normalcy. But now even our troops in Somalia, and we know the number of measures that even have been put forth by World Health Organization in terms of curbing the spread of the coronavirus might be a bit of a challenge there, and the doctor has mentioned a few measures there that the AMISOM are trying to do while they are in Somalia, and I don't know if isolation could be possible there in case one person has been found to have had COVID-19, and do they have the facilities, do they have the equipment, do they have the medical requirements to even undergo this test, to carry out this test? Because we know in the army they have their own doctors. Are they supplied enough? Do they have all everything that they need in terms of carrying out the test? Should it be necessary? And right now, the reason why we are even so worried is because of the numbers of Somalia that have keep rising, and right now they stand at 480 cases that have been confirmed in Somalia. And if you know what has been happening in Somalia,
Miriam,
yes,
we want to cross over to Kampala and pick it from our correspondent, one of the veteran correspondents who has covered the issue of Somalia for a long time. He was himself a journalist in the Daily Monitor and other papers and in Uganda.
But doctor, I just wanted to understand these measures that have been put in place.
Online.
Maybe you could respond to that. You could ask him just so that I don't lose my thought of process there. The isolation, quarantine, social distancing, are these things that could be really possible, practical for AMISOM there in Somalia?
Thank you very much, Miriam. I just want to bring in, I am going to answer you before I introduce Mr. Ouma. Good morning, Mr. Ouma.
Good morning, Dr.
Thank you very much for joining us from Kampala. What is the situation in Kampala?
The situation is a bit trying to come down.
Yes.
We're expecting the president to make a national address today. And speculation is that most likely he's going to make some easing of the lockdown. Most likely he's going to allow all these schools to be open and then have numbers of commuter taxi, people in passenger in the taxi reduced for kids to 9, including buses in this city. But all
Okay, thank you very much. Hold on the line. You have already known of the topic that we are discussing. You are part of the journalists, veterans, who actually covered the entry of the first Ugandan contingent in Somalia way back in 2007, when you are still working with the Monitor newspaper as one of the senior top men there. Hold on the line. Let me answer what Miriam is talking about in the barracks. In the barracks, there must be discipline. I believe the discipline of, you see when soldiers are marching on parade, there is this thing where they do the hand like this. And when they do the hand like this and move this way, they want to measure distance. Naturally, soldiers are actually 1 meter all the time away from each other. So the question of distance and the social distancing in barracks and within the soldiers is not new. It needs only to be now reinforced by command, but it is not new. Because when they say, run this way left, run that way right, and you see people coming to their normal line, there is always a distance. 2, the question of washing hands, it is normal. Discipline in the barracks is always normal. You can't go to the parade without showering. You must shower. It's a normal shower. In fact, most of the soldiers shower cold water. I am used to cold water myself. In the morning, I take cold water. I don't shower this water, which you know, cold water opens up your pores, and then you can go back to work. You can sit. We have been sitting with you from 9 o'clock. I've been working from 4. Since morning, I've been working. And therefore, soldiers are disciplined. They know what discipline is. They abide by the discipline, Miriam. And what is happening there, I believe it is on the height. The host populations have become with the population outside, given there is no hospital in Mogadishu, given that Mogadishu hospital does not have beds. We had only 1 bed, as you know. There's a very terrible scandal that has come out of this bed that we see it was taken over by the government, and they made a lot of complaints. Therefore, that's it. Unless there's another question, let's now question our gentleman in Kampala. And Mr. Ouma in Kampala.
Yes, doctor.
Yeah, given that this is the time on COVID-19, and Kampala has handled COVID-19 with the greatest and the smartest type of tactics. And I think on this time, you can like President Museveni or hate him, but on this one, he has delivered the strictness that is required in order to combat COVID-19. Do you agree with my sentiments?
Yes, I do, Doctor. And on the national stage, Africa should have an award in this way of having performed better. Now, as we come back to COVID, it has found out actually showing that among the East African countries, Uganda has done a bit better. They have done better. They have managed to follow the public policy guidance given by the Ministry of Health and the President. That's why I've seen that the numbers, there are no infections now in the country, apart from the infection being imported from Kenya and Tanzania. So I think we have done so well. And so first of all, that's why we expect that at global debate, there could be something of the lockdown.
What do you think? What else do you think? Apart from Miriam, can you bring us the figures, the latest figures from Uganda? How many in Uganda, or Ouma, if you have them at hand, how many people have been infected? How many are dead? How many have recovered? Miriam?
In Uganda, the cases confirmed there so far is at 79. 47 people have recovered. No deaths have been reported in Uganda. So 79 people have confirmed tested positive for COVID-19.
79 have been, infected with COVID-19, and no deaths yet. 47. Recovery is how many?
47 recoveries.
47 people have recovered. Mm-hmm. That is some number. Is playing very good. What we, in all these things, I don't know, I am not a mathematician, but I'm a sampler. When 79 affected and 47 get cured, does the number increase or does it go down or go up? What exactly?
It goes down.
What happened?
So right now, the people who are still being treated for COVID-19 in Uganda is 32, but the total confirmed cases in that country is 79. So having 47 people recovered, the people who are now actively getting treatment is 32.
32. Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you very much. Oma, any special arrangements that you might have heard of UPDF sending to the gentlemen and the ladies who are on the ground in Somalia? Do we have special prayer day? Do we have anything, prayers? Do we have special equipment? Are we also, is the government catering for the troops, just as the government is catering for the citizens in Uganda?
The information I've got from Somalia is that the measures government took to control COVID here, let's talk of washing hands, social distancing, among others, is the same measures they have taken with all their missions in Somalia. That is according to the deputy spokesperson of the UPDF, Major Aki. I spoke to him this morning, and that's what the brief we gave me. Although I could not independently verify the ground, I don't have any source there, but being the spokesperson of the army, what he tells me, I think it has a cost of speak.
What is the mood amongst Ugandans of the presence of our troops, which some of us support fully? I want to make it very categorical so that you understand that from my point of view, I support fully the troops in Somalia. Their presence is supported by very many Ugandans. I believe you are also a supporter of our presence into Somalia to pacify the Somali territory, to return Somalia to the world order. Is there anybody who has any other contrary opinion regarding our presence in Somalia?
Well, the majority of Ugandans believe they're doing a good job. They understand a good job. If you remember, before UPDF went to Somalia, that's when I think when I got to Somalia, that's when we had the Al-Shabaab break, very region. They're trying to plant bombs here and there. So the solution to the problem, the president tried to work at the resource and resource as well as Somalia. So they have done quite a good job. Most Ugandans appreciate, although there are some few opportunistic politicians who will take advantage of such scenarios when, for instance, we lose 1 or 2 soldiers and they criticize the government. However, all in all, they're doing a good job. Most of them who go there, although they're right, they come back when they have to die. They have to put up buildings, they have to put up houses, including police. So which money do not have worked when they're locally here? So although they risk their life, but they benefit. So they are done a good job here.
Thank you very much. I just want to give you a parting shot. Your parting shot on this issue of COVID-19. What other message would you like to send to KDF and the UPDF as our brothers who are safeguarding our borders, who are pacifying a Pan-African state, who are creating hope for the people of Somalia? What message do you send today?
Our army is both Kenya and Uganda our gallant sons who ensure that we are safe, who ensure that we have a good sleep and wake up when we are normal. So they should not be compromised by anything, whatever is to allow people cross the border unless the lockdown has been eased. Because if you take within 200 of Kenya currency, 200 of Kenya currency with the start of that, you're essentially also thousands and thousands of lives. So I know they are saying to not be good, but when it comes to East African security, nationalism, that should be at the forefront. We should keep the citizens safe, otherwise we can't do that.
Thank you very much, Stephen Ouma, all the way from the capital city of Kampala, Uganda, a veteran journalist, our correspondent from Kampala. Thank you very much. Keep on watching, keep on getting more information. Thank you for your journalistic analysis that has brought us before you go, there's one thing, Miriam, do you have any question for Mr. Ouma about
not really
cars in Uganda? Cars are not moving, no public transport, no private transport. Because President Museveni said, which is true, that cars are the ones that move the COVID.
Yes.
That's why he has got that number. So the cars move COVID. COVID does not move, but the cars move COVID.
Yes, indeed.
So are you happy with the arrangements in the capital city and the country called Uganda?
I think that is working
Miriam?
very well. Yeah, the measures there by President Museveni. At first, I think people didn't really understand and they thought that move was very punitive. But now we can see it's bearing some fruit. So I think it has been working, judging by the numbers that have since been recorded there in Uganda. And so I don't think President Museveni should be letting anytime soon. So just a couple of more days, and after everything is in control, perhaps he can ease up, the flow of traffic there in Kampala. But Doctor, just before one of our Mr. Ouma there goes, there's a question here by one of our viewers, Sidonio Givandas, and he's saying, I would like to know what is World Health Organization doing regarding that Senegal has developed its own testing sample, and why is it not being addressed by World Health Organization? And the testing sample from Senegal, I think they go for $1 each, but we've not seen this catch the attention of World Health Organization. Yes.
First of all, let me take a go before Ouma, don't leave. I am one of the few people who supports Senegal. If it has got testing samples, the situation between Uganda and the Kenya border, Tanzania, Mutukula and the Uganda border, in Mutukula, between Tanzania and the Uganda, Namanga and Kenya, these situations, if not well checked, we have a problem here. And today, I hope President Museveni, yesterday I called upon East African states, heads of states, to wake up, to stand up and smell the coffee. We could finish the pandemic, but we can land in endemic. I don't know whether you see that. We could finish pandemic, can go, but we might have endemic because the number of people and the conditions on the border in Tanzania and Kenya are not the same. They are not on the same wavelength. Between Uganda and Tanzania, we are not on the same wavelength. Between Somalia and Kenya, we are not on the same wavelength. We are talking of countries that are bordering Kenya. If we don't devise an East African or IGAD policy, and that's what I'm advocating for. At my age, I am not going to be shy. I have lived 6 decades on this planet Earth and above. Therefore, if I don't call upon my fellow friends of age mates in this bracket, the leaders of East Africa, to stand up to be counted by putting a general policy, one general policy that will govern the entire East African region on COVID-19, we are going to have an endemic after the pandemic is gone. And the worst thing is endemic, because endemic is done slowly, smaller parts, smaller parts, smaller parts. So what I am trying to say is this: I support all methods by Senegal in the manufacture of the quick service. Call it quick service. They should not call it anything else. Quick service. Unakuja, unaenda. That is very good. Quick service. Test you, 15 minutes, we have the result. We tell you go to quarantine, get your lorry. All lorry drivers, truck drivers, let me give advice. Yesterday I gave advice, because this advice will help our troops to lessen our troops getting worried about COVID-19, which is being imported from inside Somalia to Somalia and from inside Somalia to Kenya. COVID-19, they can get trucks that test people at the border points. There are cars in Germany. Uganda has money. Uganda is able to buy these cars and airlift them today. They can be here in 3 days. Kenya has got the big planes. They are standing here doing nothing. We can send those to get those cars from Germany and put 3 or 4 at the border crossing, and 5 each border crossing can have 5. There is no custom involved now, because the situation is war. We are at war, and we cannot be at war and go on being daddy. We must take decisions. If we are going to have 5 drivers bringing us disease from Tanzania, infecting people in Uganda who have stayed without disease, we cannot keep quiet anymore. Ugandans are quiet. Mutukula has become a death toll, a route. So Uganda does not want to close the Mutukula route because we need the goods. But time is going to come when measures have to come. But before we go to that level, let's look for alternatives. One of the alternatives is those Senegal. The Senegal kit. Yes. The testing kits in Senegal is very quick. It's very quick. 10 minutes. There is no country. Let me tell you one thing, Miriam and Oma. There is no country now which is selfish. No country is selfish today. Even Britain, which has got its own problem. And I want to thank President Uhuru Kenyatta yesterday on Friday for sending those flowers. Those flowers have ignited the British people. Your Excellency, you are listening to this show. Thank you very much, Mr. President. The flowers have lightened the people of London. The people, the health workers. You know, there is a problem here, Miriam. And there's still 5 to 10 minutes of your show. You grow flowers for who? Whom do you grow flowers for? Is there any man in this African continent who loves a woman because of flowers? Send a woman flowers and say, love me in Africa. She will say, oh, look at this man. I want food and atuma maua. Hakuna mtu anakula maua in Africa. Who eats the flowers in Africa? Then we have some people in Kenya condemning the president of Kenya. You have seen what they have written on social media. I'd forgotten this, ma'am. This is stupidity. You cannot say the president did a wrong thing to send the flowers to Britain. It is them who want the flowers. Anybody who has lived in Britain, if you don't come with flowers on Friday, you might not have good food in the house. Even some of us are forced to buy 2 sticks somewhere near the railway station in order to convince your wife to smile. So flowers are very important in Britain. Why do you condemn the president when the president did it? Do you want them to rot here? Do you want them? How many people are going to Naivasha to buy the flowers? How many people have even bought the flowers to send to the troops in Somalia? How many? The health workers in Kenya don't need flowers. They need cash in the pocket to eat the money, to pay their wages to childminders so that they can go and work. Am I wrong? So the president has increased that money. It's going to come. Now you wanted the flowers to rot in Naivasha. Yet there are people in the world who could even be healed by smelling the Kenyan rose. So, Jamin, this thing of condemning our president, the president, I had forgotten that point. Flowers bring hope for the Wazungu. Flowers don't bring hope for us. Wacha tuambiane wa ukweli. Flowers don't bring hope. You tell me, maybe Miriam has a point there on the flowers. Say it. She needs flowers. Do they bring you hope?
I'll just leave that flower thing alone. I don't want to get into it.
Ouma.
Yes.
Mr. Ouma?
Yes, doctor.
You are in Uganda. Do flowers bring hope to your house?
Not at all, not at all. Actually, that was enough. I got your call. My brother-in-law had just come into the picture and he got for me a sack of potatoes. And I'm very happy to hear come with flowers. I was wanting now with this man. You see, maybe that's the flowers.
He came with your brother-in-law brought you flowers.
No, he brought me potatoes.
He brought the potatoes from the village.
Not from the village. He stays out of town, about 40 kilometers away. So he brought me because locals are not allowed. So he brought me afterwards.
Oh.
And I was very happy. But if you have flowers, then it would have been a different story.
Because you would tell him to go back with them. A normal African man like me. And you see, there's one problem that we have. We Africans copy everything from the British, from the Americans, we have copied everything. That if you don't buy flowers nowadays in Nairobi, you are seen as the most useless man on the planet Earth. What flowers can bring food to you? We need money. Flowers are good for where President Uhuru Kenyatta sent them. You know the health workers who got the Kenyan bunch with the name of the president from Kenya. President Uhuru Kenyatta has made a name in Britain. I'm telling you, there's a headline, 2-3. I saw them. They were very thankful for the flowers. And Your Excellency, Mr. President, just encourage you to send more once every week, one flight. Yeah. Because the British, despite all these problems, you know the Britain is the only country that is even giving us some little money. It has sent some little money to the Commonwealth countries. It has not, the Queen has not forgotten those countries. And that is what we want, Miriam. Otherwise, some countries are like America, they have closed the door. Trump has closed to some countries. He's only speaking to Senegal because Senegal has got what he wants. Do you know how much he has pumped in those things of Senegal? He has sent money.
But he also called President Uhuru Kenyatta, I think, on Friday, and President Cyril Ramaphosa.
No, on Kenya he has done very well, but not to all African countries. He has not spoken. He has spoken to Ramaphosa, Kagame, the Ethiopian Prime Minister, complaining very bitterly for the first 7 minutes of their telephone conversation. There was a complaint about Mr. Tedros, our friend across the bridge. And that is it. Then he has talked to a few African heads of state. But the only thing that I find very good and very interesting is the gesture that even when these European countries are under siege, Italy is even sending help to some African countries. Do we really have hearts like those guys? I leave it there and I rest my case. Do we really have hearts, we Africans? Are we sending anything to those people? Can we send things, flowers? If we only send flowers and the people want to destroy the name of President Uhuru Kenyatta because he has sent flowers, which is a normal thing. Do we grow these flowers for export? But if they are rotting in a farm in Naivasha, why don't you give them for free? Yeah. Thank you very much. Ouma, before you leave, 1 minute. The Ugandans, do you also have Ugandans who are complaining about returning home from China?
Yes.
But they have prepared their way to come back.
No, it's never like that. They have to come back. They will come.
They decided to stay home, to stay put.
So they need to send to come back. The border are still closed. They can't enter.
And they will be quarantined.
Yes.
Yeah, so it is better to call your relative in Kampala to do a transfer on your credit card, which can be drawn in Hong Kong or Wuhan, than you coming to Kampala, because when you reach Kampala, you again go under quarantine 14 days, and then you reach Kenya 14 days. In fact, Kenya, if you have Urusi, one Urusi, is it called Urusi?
Virus.
Am I right?
You mean the virus, yes.
The virus, Virusi.
Yes.
If you have one Virusi or what is it called, Miriam? Let me get the right name.
Virusi in Kiswahili for virus.
Virusi, which means virus. If you have it, 14 days. And if in 14 days you have not improved, another 14, that's 1 month. So it's better to stay in Wuhan and keep quiet. Wuhan has opened, then successfully find another African country which is still open. Zimbabwe, by the way, flights have not been closed down in Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe still has flights, but in Zimbabwe also when you arrive, you are put down for checked at the airport. If you have any serious cough, you don't see the light out of the airport, you go to quarantine. So there are many countries in Africa, but thank you very much, Ouma, for that information. Thank you very much, Miriam. We come back to you for this, what is it called? Diaspora
For the diaspora dispatches, yes, and we shall talk a very short break and come back with the diaspora dispatches. Don't go too far.
And we have Mr. Joseph Manasseh. We have Mr. Fari Sudi. Well, Somalia is stronger. Our government and the health department implemented the measures. Thank you. Tell them to implement them more. Omar Obesh Othar, the program is fantastic. Thank you very much. Sinduyo, you read that one. Musa, Marema, and Jeff watching. Sidon again. Joseph Otto Manasseh. The man has been insisting that what about the medicine from Madagascar, Miriam? Yeah.
Well, I've not heard so much about it, except last week when President Rajolina, president of Madagascar, who said that they're calling it a COVID organics. So he said that every student, every people who is receiving back to school in Madagascar, there has to take a bottle. I don't know how much is the prescription, how much somebody is supposed to take, but they're supposed to take that before they go back to school. And so, yeah, and he also said that that medicine treated 2 people. It has been derived from a plant that has been known to treat malaria there in Madagascar. So there are hopes, and I think the world is just monitoring and see this COVID organic. Is it the real deal here? And perhaps it is time that the rest of the world looked for Africa to find solutions in times like this. So that is very interesting, and it is going on. And Doctor, Another interesting thing here that I looked at, I think when we were looking at yes, the papers earlier, there's a Kenyan doctor who have also a Kenyan scientist finds HIV drug to be taken yearly in the United States. They're the front pages of the Star newspaper. Yes, which I thought was very interesting. So, you know, the people who take the ARVs, they have to do that every day. So apparently with this one, you injected once a year and you don't have to have the daily doses there of the ARVs. So we see Africans are doing great things across the world. So who knows, we might actually be having a solution for the COVID-19 here in the continent, and I am excited. Even for Madagascar, let's keep, finding stuff.
Ouma, the Kenyan scientist has found a medicine for HIV/AIDS. Wanakupiga sindano mara moja once.
Yeah.
One big needle. Inaingia kwa. Is it a syringe?
It's
not a needle.
It's not a big needle. It's just the normal. But
We call it
you're given once a year.
Yes. You go and they give you once in a year, and then you continue with your life. Kenyan scientists has found it.
In the US, together with some colleagues there in the US. So
yes.
It's very exciting
So
news there.
we might be very close to finding a solution for Mr. Pandemic called invisible pandemic called COVID-19. But we might find no solution for the endemic because Tanzania has refused to close the border.
Yes.
And the drivers still continue streaming in. Trucks are coming and the drivers go on sleeping all the way from Lukaya, Mutukula, Kampala, Masaka, paka wapi. We have a problem. So, President John Magufuli, sit down with your fellow East African heads of state and President Farimajo in Somalia. The graph is too high. It's running too high. 400 and what? Is very high.
For Somalia, it's
Somalia.
And
yes, Somalia
Tanzania
is
is
0.
300, yes.
Now it has 400 and something to people infected with HIV positive. It's not very good at all. No, not good at all.
Not HIV, but the COVID-19.
Not the COVID-19, not very good.
COVID-19.
Sorry about it. You know, me and Farimajo, we have a problem. So when I start talking about his name, things go high. So that's the problem we have. Thank you very much, viewers. Thank you very much, our troops in Somalia, in Mogadishu, in Kismayo, in Balidoa, in all those places. Thank you very much. Continue doing the good job. We are with you all the way to Jerusalem and all the way to Mecca, all the way to Riyadh, all the way to where all religions are. We are all praying and things will be well. Thank you.
Yeah.